Welcome back. My guest tonight is a former Baltimore prosecutor and assistant attorney general in Maryland. She's talking about the state of the criminal justice system in her book, Get Off My Neck, Black Lives, White Justice, and a Former Prosecutor's Quest for Reform. That former prosecutor is Debbie Hines. Welcoming her back to the Final Five. It's good to see you again.
It certainly is good to see you.
We're catching up beforehand. We're going to catch up more on the back end of this after we go off the air. But first of all, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
We've had this long discussion in the media and more so over the last couple of years about the state of the criminal justice system. So as you wrote this, what did it open your mind to? What did you discover about a career that you devoted so much time to that maybe you didn't know about it going into writing this?
So I didn't know about there are so many things that we can do to reform the system. I also didn't know that universally in the United States that there's such a racial disparity of blacks being incarcerated, being in the system throughout the United States, since I only prosecuted in Baltimore and I only have done defense in Washington, D.C. and throughout the state of Maryland, but it's everywhere. Yeah,
especially you mentioned Baltimore and you talk about it in the book. You were not working in Baltimore at the time when Freddie Gray happened, but back in 2015, you know, for our region, it really was the first time in recent memory where we were confronted with this double standard, and also when we looked at the prosecution of the officers. Of course, there were the 6 officers, 3 were acquitted, the charges were dropped against the other 3, and a lot of people looked at this and said, when you looked at the evidence from Freddie Gray, if you couldn't get one prosecution from that, what does that say about the legal system and instilling trust in it?
It basically says there's very little trust, at least in the black community, and we want everyone to basically see that, and because that was basically the focus of what happens with all of these police cases. Yes, George Floyd was an exception. His life was an exception with Derek Chauvin, but basically police officers throughout do not get prosecuted, and even if they get a conviction, Jim, they don't generally serve any time like Chauvin did.
And one of the things that has brought together some strange political bedfellows in recent years, as we've talked about criminal justice reform, there are a lot of people looking at things like qualified immunity when it comes to police officers, which, you know, you'll have some people from different ends of the spectrum saying, yeah, it is a good idea to end it, but it's still something, despite efforts on Capitol Hill and elsewhere across the country, it's been a really tough sell.
It certainly has, and that's one of the things that I like about the things I discuss in my book, because I think that to get rid of qualified immunity, we have to join together individuals with racial justice organizations, with some police officers, with prosecutors. We have to make a collaborative effort in order to just get over those big hurdles like qualified immunity.
When you talk about bringing people together, though, in that regard, it's really easy, and I say that knowing, you know, my privilege in society, it's really easy to say, why won't people in the community get together with police officers and just talk it out? But I don't know about things like the talk that African-American families have had to have with their young sons about dealing with police officers. I grew up in a family. My uncle was a cop for 30-some years. He was a good cop. But I understand why people are hesitant to trust the police. One thing you talk about in the book, dovetailing on Freddie Gray, was the case of Allan Bullock.
Oh, yes.
He was the young man who was on the front page of the Baltimore Sun in the midst of the riots, smashing out a car with a traffic cone, and his mother said, "Turn yourself in." And he did. He turned himself in, but the prosecution of that really, she walked away saying he should have never done that because they wanted to hold him on a $500,000 bail.
Exactly, and ultimately, he's almost, and I grasp my heart because my heart literally bleeds for Allan Bullock and all the Allan Bullocks that basically end up in a situation that you should have been charged with a lesser crime, malicious destruction. He busted in a windshield of a police vehicle. He did not commit any violent crime, but yet and still the prosecutor overcharged him, just like they always do in a lot of these cases. And at the end of the day, he ended up serving 12 years on something that should have been a malicious destruction charge.
Right now in D.C., we're having this discussion about police reform or criminal justice reform. The Secure D.C. Act passed, and there were a lot of minor crimes. You know, we've talked about shopliftings. We've seen so many stores closing down right now because of this massive amount of shoplifting. Fare evasion on the T, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things, is a minor crime. But things like that, there are people that have watched that from the other side, and they're saying, why are we not prosecuting? Why are we not enforcing laws against youth offenders more now than we haven't in the past?
So here's the thing. People out here that have children, that are teenagers, that are 15, that are 12, do we really want to do something to them that will carry them for the rest of their lives? And that's because it's a vicious cycle of turnover and turnover and turnover, unlike what some jurisdictions are doing, which is to provide some type of help and support for them, not within the criminal justice system, not to give them that scarlet letter that will stay with them forever and ever and ever.
So for people who read the book here, again, the book is Get Off My Neck, Black Lives, White Justice, and a Former Prosecutor's Quest for Reform. What do you want people who have no input, no interactions with the criminal justice system, what do you want them to take away from this?
So my mom always had this saying, and she said, knowledge is key. And so I want people to understand how the system works. I've laid it out pretty detailed so people will know what a prosecutor does, how the system basically works. And when you're armed with knowledge, then you can move towards action. And so what I want people to do is get armed with what happens, what really happens, not what you read about in the newspaper, not what gets sensationalized, but what is really happening day to day across the country. Once you have that knowledge, you must be obsessed with justice, because that's what we're supposed to be about in this country, fairness and justice, but we're not that within the criminal justice system. So I want people to take what's in the book, find their own place, and I say whether you're 22 or 92, there is something in there that you can do in order to improve the criminal justice system.
Debbie, we could talk about this and so much more all night, but I have to leave it at that. But again, it's on the book. Great to see you. Congratulations.
Great to see you. Thank you.
By the way, you are doing a talk at
Politics and Prose
tomorrow night,
7 p.m.
All right.
Connecticut Avenue.
There you go. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Final Five is back after this.